All right, let's do this. Okay, PV on. Battery on. And grid on. Well, being able to manage multiple sources of power, whether it's from the grid or whether it's from solar or a battery backup system, is really kind of liberating, and being able to have that capability. And that's where these all-in-one PV hybrid inverters really come into play, and they're very useful for a number of different applications. Now we're taking a look at the this new one from SunGoldPower. It's a split phase, 48 volts, 11.4 kilowatt hybrid inverter. It also adds a couple of additional features that I'll go through, like being able to tie into an existing grid tie inverter. Let's say you already have solar and you have a grid tie inverter, but you want a little bit more control over how that power is stored and distributed. Maybe you don't want to sell the power back to the power company. So there's just a ton of different ways to configure how the power is managed and where it goes and when. And we're going to cover some of that. And I'm also going to show you how I'm using this as well for a backup power system and for some off-grid applications. But let's dive right in. I'll show you some customizations I've also made to this setup, how to get it installed, set up, and powered up. Hopefully it'll help you out and give you some ideas of what you can do on your own. Now, I always prefer to just jump right in and crack it open and look at the inputs and outputs. That helps me get a better picture of what the capabilities of these inverters are. So we'll do that. There's a lot to look at in here. But first I thought I'd cover some of the kind of key specifications that we want to know about this inverter before we just start poking around. And I'll also put a link to the full list of specifications. I don't want to read through every single one here. That can get kind of boring. So this is a 48 volt inverter. So it takes a 48 volt DC battery source and lithium iron phosphate or even lead acid. I'll show you how I have mine set up. But it also has a 10 kilowatt continuous output, and I believe a 210 amp charge and discharge limit, and a maximum of 400 amps, I think, for like 1 second. So if you have any surges or big inductive loads that are going to fire up, make sure your batteries can support it, and the inverter should be just fine. Now this is going to give you a split phase output. I think you can even set it up for single phase, split phase, and three phase if you're running a three-phase system. But for most of us, we're probably going to be doing a split phase, and you can parallel up to 9 of these, and just use all 9 together if you have a really large system. Now it also has some additional inputs and outputs that I'll talk about when we get into the box here. But we can plug in a generator to it, program how and when that generator is going to kick in, cut out, and also it's got this thing called a smart load, which I'll talk about here. And we can also, like I mentioned, set it up so that you can connect a grid tie inverter to it and use it to charge batteries. And our grid interactive functions are completely programmable, so we can even limit how much grid we want coming in, how much current we want going out. So it's pretty easy to customize those things. And for my application, I'm not pushing anything back to the grid. So I'll show you how that needs to be set up if you don't want to feed power back to your grid and involve your utility company. Now, as far as solar goes, we've got 3 MPPTs. Each one has 4 inputs. 2 sets of positive and negatives. These are things that you might typically use a combiner box or something, and you can probably eliminate that. So 3 of those, and each one I think has a maximum of 5,000 watts, so 5 kilowatts with a total of 15 kilowatts altogether. And I believe the voltage limit is up to 600 volts, so pretty good. And the inverter also meets UL 1741 safety requirements and has a 10-year warranty. Now, if you want to get more detailed into how I have everything connected and set up for my entire system and what all the different components are, I'll put a link to my parts list and system diagram on my website where you can go check it out. All right, now as you saw in the beginning of the video, this inverter is pretty heavy. It's pretty difficult to lift at 88 pounds. So what I did is I hooked up an eye bolt up here, and I used my little mini chain hoist to get it up, and that seemed to work pretty well. I've used it before. But yeah, it has a mounting bracket that you put on first. It's got handles on the side, so if you did want to lift it up with one or two people, you can do that. And once you have it in place, there's a little set screw that you put in to just kind of lock it in place. Now it does stand out about 10 inches from the wall, so just keep that in mind if you're looking at dimensions. Now on the front here we have a list of our sources, and it lights up depending upon what mode we're in. We've got a PV indicator, we've got a battery indicator. Right now it's kind of blinking, meaning that we're running from batteries. So I have the grid disconnected temporarily, and it's just powering everything right now from the battery. So we're kind of in an off-grid mode. The grid is off right now because I have the grid disconnected. So there's the grid indicator. The backup is our backup loads. So all of our loads that I have connected through my emergency services, emergency circuits panel. I'll show you that real quick. And we've got a little indicator for when our communication is happening, whether it's connecting to our closed loop BMS communication, which I'm not using, but I'll show you what I'm doing instead. And I guess this will blink if we have any alarms and stuff like that. And those alarms actually will show you here what the actual number is of that error or alarm, so you can look it up. Our inputs and outputs are also displayed here on this little display panel. We've got our solar and our battery and our grid here, and this is our backup loads here. And it shows you the little animation of where the power is coming and going from. And our status here it just kind of rotates. It shows you, the solar input. It shows you, our battery and system output values. Just kind of keeps rotating through all of those. Now this is our split phase and grid output. Right now we're not bringing anything in from the grid or out, but we are powering our loads with split phase output. So it's going to show that here on what our output L1 and L2 is. So it's 120 volts, 19 volts, and 230 watts right now, and 60 hertz. Now, one thing you might have picked up about this front panel already is that there are no buttons here. So there's no way to change any settings or control things here from the front. Everything is managed through this app that will show you how to set it up. And it's a Bluetooth app, but it also has a Wi-Fi component if you want to use that for remote monitoring and some settings. But I'll talk about that when we get into that setup part. All right, moving to the left-hand side of the inverter, we've got a disconnect switch for our PV, which is really nice. You can just turn it on and off from here. And it also has a way to lock this. So if it's off, you can lock it and put something through this spot here and keep somebody from turning it on if you don't want them to. Our front panel here is got these little, it's got a key to lock this whole panel if you wanted to. And to open it, we open these here and this whole door swings out. So we'll pop that open shortly, put the key there. And on the bottom here, we have this button which we use to shut it down if we wanted to. If you didn't have a quick rapid shutdown button installed, you could use this button here. And it also is what we would press and hold to turn the display back on when it times out. Now on the right hand side, we can see here on the bracket that this is this set screw here that you put in after you've got the inverter mounted into the bracket. So this locks it into place. And we can also see we got a bunch of stickers and stuff here, our safety certification stuff here. And I've also installed this rapid shutdown switch here. And I'll show you when we get inside where I have that wired. This is not something that's included in with the inverter. I picked this up off of Amazon. Now the documentation they provide is pretty good. This is the user's manual, and it's pretty detailed. It's got a lot of different diagrams and stuff to show you different ways to set it up depending upon how you're going to use this system. And they also included these color copies of some of those diagrams that show, you know, all the different wiring, and, you know, whether you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 or, or split phase, 3-phase, all these different options, including some mounting detail here, dimensions, and even different connections and the and where they go. And it's kind of handy to have these in color because a lot of the diagrams in the book are not in color. So how to set up the app and how to get it running, Wi-Fi instructions, and a list of testing that they did on the inverter before they shipped it. And yeah, a lot of good stuff here. Now for my setup, I was already pre-wired for all this stuff. I just had to kind of swap out inverters with my previous inverter. And what I ended up doing was building a custom conduit box because I didn't want to just source and fit a whole bunch of new conduit and stuff coming out of the bottom of the inverter. So I ended up building one. I had some sheet metal and I have some tools to do that stuff. So I put together a conduit box, ended up tracing out the top of the conduit box to match the bottom of the inverter where all the knockout holes are, and it turned out pretty good. I even was able to paint it. I actually had an existing can of spray paint that was the same color, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and it just kind of hides everything. But yeah, I think for SunGoldPower, I would think it'd be a great thing if you were to provide, either as an extra or an included component, a nice box that you could use to help with the install. This case is probably made out of aluminum or something because it's not magnetic, but that is my little thing. So I put little screws there. Remove this cover. All right. Pop off like that. All right, starting on the left here, we've got our incoming battery connections, and they have this toroid piece here which helps eliminate any noise and interference and all that. So that's really nice. Just kind of run those through there, and we can do a quick voltage check. And we can see here we got 53.6 volts. And they recommend number 3 cable. I'm using number 2. We've got a circuit breaker for that positive and negative battery connection. Now on the bottom here, we can see our PV inputs. We've got several of them. So we've got 4 for each one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now I just have 2 coming in for my my 1 PV array, and that's going into the negative and the positive here. And I could add another one here in parallel for that that first MPPT. And this is MPPT 2 and then MPPT 3. Now these are really nice connectors. You just, you know, they go up like this, and then you put your cable in the bottom and they lock down really nicely. So pretty nice. Up here is our communication board. So this is I did wire a battery BMS comm cable just so I could show you in the setup how to switch it to say a Pylon Tech BMS. But I am set up right now with just a manual battery configuration. This here is our CT, our current transformers. These transformers here are measuring the current on L1 and L2 coming from the grid connection, I guess, and going to the grid connection. So that's where those are. So that connects, those connect to here. Now on pins 3 and 4 on this plug here is where I have my rapid shutdown switch connected, and that's the yellow and green, and it basically connects those when I hit the switch, and it works pretty well. Now here in the middle is where the Wi-Fi module is typically connected. If it wasn't for this box, it would be just connected here and sticking out the bottom of the inverter. But since I installed this box, what I did is I picked up just an extension cable. I'm gonna grab it here. I just have it sitting up here. So this is the Wi-Fi module. It's just got a regular RS-232 serial connection. So I went on Amazon, picked up like a 3-foot extension cable, and then plugged that into the serial connection here on the bottom instead of having this mounted like that. So I have this external now. On this right hand side is where we have all of our AC inputs and outputs. Okay, let's start with this grid. It's got another one of these, I think it's how you pronounce it, toroid or whatever, but it helps eliminate any interference and noise on the connection. So that's on the grid input, and we've got a L1 and L2 and our grid neutral. Now that is connected to this neutral bar that's behind here. So this neutral goes from here, and that's connected to this neutral bar. And then we also have a grounding bar back here. So the ground for the grid connection is grounded to this grounding bar back here, which is where all the other grounds would be. So if we look at our output here, which is our split phase output, on our backup, we've got an L1 and an L2, and then the neutral is connected to this neutral bar here. And there's a copper grounding cable that goes to that grounding bar in the back. So that's the way that's hooked up. Now we have another one here that is for our generator input, and it also serves multiple purposes. Now I should also point out that the neutral and the ground is not bonded in this inverter, which is good. That's not what you want. So it's in my system, it's grounded in the main panel for my main grid connection. So you don't have to pull any pins or do anything fancy to remove the ground neutral bond. So this is really one of the cool features that I think this inverter has, which is this multi-purpose input output for the generator. So you have multiple ways to use this. You can either use it as to connect a generator, and if you have auto start capability on the generator, you can use the dry contacts here and connect those wires here, and it can automatically start and stop a generator. But you can also use it for other things. If you wanted to use the solar coming in from your grid-tied inverter for something else, you could connect it to here, and it serves as an input at that point. So what that'll do is it'll you can basically go into the settings and you can say enable this feature, and then it'll charge your batteries from your grid tie inverter. And you can set up whether you turn this on and off and how much to charge, when to charge. You can have all these different settings for that type of setup. So pretty neat. Now another thing you can use this connection for is an auxiliary, I guess it's not really an auxiliary, but an alternate output. They call this a smart load. So let's say in some of these working modes where you've got more solar than you need. So you're powering your loads, your batteries are charged, and you still got extra solar coming in. You don't want that to go to waste. So what you can do is connect another, probably a sub panel of some sort to this here and configure it as an output. And they're calling this a smart load. So we would typically use that maybe for a diversion load of some sort. And you want to consume that energy in some way, whether it's charging other batteries, powering other circuits, maybe, hooking it up to a hot water heater or something like that, where you can utilize that excess energy coming in some way. So that's another way you can use this port as an output. So yeah, we got three functions here for this connection. One is we've got a generator input for battery charging. We've got a grid tie inverter input for battery charging, and we can use it for a smart load output to power some other stuff that you want to make use of excess energy. So pretty nice feature to have, and you can change all the settings and for all of those different uses. So I really like this layout. I think it's really clean and well built, and it's been working really good, and it doesn't really make much noise at all. Right now you can hear that, or not hear that, there's no fans running, and it's powering. It's probably only pulling about 500 watts right now to supply my loads, but yeah, it's not blowing fans all the time. It's pretty quiet. And if you want to know what the idle current draw is, I did measure that. I think it's about 90 watts or so. With no load connected to it, it was drawing about 1.7 amps, and that's at 53 volts or so, which came out to about 90 watts. So that's our idle current draw. The inverter is just sitting here, even though it's not making any noise right now. So now that we have everything off, I want to take you through the initial startup process, because it involves using this app and getting everything started through the app. And this is where you're going to make all of your settings and changes and configure your system. So the first thing I need to do is, with everything off, double check everything's connected. And we'll just leave this open for a minute. We have nothing here on the display. It's pretty well documented, this whole process, in the manual, but I want to take you through it real quick. So the first thing we're going to do is turn on the PV, because we got solar coming in. And that should be enough to get things started and booting. And we can probably see something pop up here on the display here real quick. You can see it's starting up. Shows us some solar. All right, so now we have solar to power this up initially. The system is still off though, so we'll turn on our battery. That's the next step. And we got power from the battery, and then I'll hit the battery circuit breaker here. We should see the battery pop up here on the display. Oops, there we go. Battery's up on the display. All right, so we got a battery connected. We've got solar coming in, but the system's not really running yet. It's just kind of getting started. So the next step is to go into this Solar Touch app. Once you get it downloaded, I'll pull it up here. And this is what it's going to look like when you start it up. Now, we just want to connect via Bluetooth to start with. So there's a little option down here at the bottom for a Bluetooth connection. You don't have to log in. And allow this, all this, allow this stuff. And I'm not going to scan anything. I'm just going to go to manual connection. Okay, so we got a new device. This is our inverter right here. Tap on that. It's connecting. And there we go. There's our inverter. The next step is to go to our quick setup. There's a quick setup option here. And we can set up a Wi-Fi if we wanted to. I'm going to just go to the next step. Verify some basic stuff. Make sure that we're set to 120 volts AC, 60 hertz. Next step is to set up how we want our connection to the grid. I'm not backfeeding anything to the grid, so I'm just pulling power in from the grid. So I want to set this to from grid to inverter. And the other option is from inverter to grid, meaning you can send power back to the grid if you want to. And I also set this maximum feed in power to 0. So I don't want any power to be going back to the grid at all. Okay, so go to next. And now you can set up your battery type and my hybrid mode. I'm using this backup mode right now. There's like 3 different modes. Self-consumption mode, feed-in priority mode, backup mode. Since I'm using the settings primarily for a backup system. Now you notice I have this set up as a lead acid battery. It's because I'm manually configuring my battery bank. Even though it's not a lead acid battery, you can still set it up with the manual charge settings and use it for lithium. So that's what I'm doing. So now through this app, we can actually start the system. Here we go. Power on, okay. Okay. There we go. You can hear it clicking, or the relays are kicking in. Now it's set to on. So now the system is actually on and running. But I'm going to hit this 70 amp breaker, and now that should enable my backup circuits. So I'm basically running in an off-grid mode right now. So what I can do now is turn on my my backup circuits, switch them over to the inverter. Okay. Yeah, now I'm pulling in some solar and consuming some energy to power my loads. Right now it's about 500, a little over 500 watts I'm pulling in. So yeah, we're running right now in an off-grid mode, which is still pretty quiet. Nothing really has changed. You might have seen a couple lights flicker is all. In the app, and you're connected via Bluetooth, you can see what's happening inside the inverter. What you want to do here is actually go to the console here and make changes to the system. And this is something that I don't necessarily like. You can't really change anything yet because you need an admin password. Now you're going to have to contact SUNGOLDPOWER initially to get that password. If I go down to the power limit, it's going to say, hey, log in as an administrator if you want to change any of this stuff. So that's something that I don't necessarily like. I think they would give you the admin and then allow you to change it. They may change this in the future, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and log in as administrator. Okay, I entered the password and I'm going to log in as administrator from the access management. So now I can go through and change all of these values. Now I've been using the Wi-Fi app to monitor the system remotely, and it's provided me some pretty good information for when I'm away. I can just keep track of what's going on, but I don't make any changes through the Wi-Fi portion. I would make all those changes to the system in the Bluetooth connected portion of this app. The Wi-Fi part still has some work to do in terms of making changes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's a very limited set of adjustments you can make there. So use the Bluetooth app if you're making any changes to the system. But with the solar that we installed recently, it's been working really well. I've been able to run most of what we need to run off-grid, especially it's been sunny, just not today. But it's been working good. If you want to check out that installation of that 2200 watts of solar up here, then check out this video that I'll link to. But everything else is going to be linked in the video description if you want to find out more about this inverter. I know we've just kind of touched on all of the different features, but I hope it gives you an introduction to what's possible. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. So take it easy.